Lake George Battlefield Moments, a production of Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance, preserving our area's incredible history. Here's the president of Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance, John DeNuzzo.
Welcome to Lake George Battlefield Moments. Our guest is Chris Sabick, Executive Director of the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum. Welcome, Chris.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on today.
Well, for those unfamiliar with the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum, can you provide an overview of what's there and where it's located?
The Lake Champlain Maritime Museum is located about 7 miles outside of Virgins, Vermont. We are on a 3-acre campus here. We have about 14, structures now on our campus, so it's a fairly open campus. We're going from displays are in individual buildings, things to see. So we have displays about the small watercraft used on Lake Champlain. We have a brand new exhibit that will be opening about the Revolutionary War on Lake Champlain. We interpret the commercial history of Lake Champlain in an exhibit about canals and canal boats that operated in the Champlain Valley. We have a very active boat shop where there's throughout the year ongoing boat building activities that are happening that can be observed by visitors. And we have an active waterfront on the lake itself where we have rowing programs, sailing activities. During the summer, we have summer camps for kids, as well as expeditionary programming for teens, where they're taking some of our canoes, kayaks, or rowboats out for longer expeditions on the lake, like week-long or 10-day-long expeditions. So it's a busy place, lots going on, pretty much year-round. Though obviously we're open it's May 17th this year, we're opening through mid-October. So that's really the heart of our season, though we have ongoing boat building activities year-round.
Okay, so and the boat building, is it confined to historic boats, or you throw out a new kayak or two?
The majority of our boat building is actually focused on our rowing program, where we have groups of non-traditional learning high school students that come in during their school year. So they started in September and they'll be working through May. And they construct a 32-foot-long rowing gig. That's a 6-oared gig, and they build it from scratch. Literally, they go out and help pick the trees that are going to be cut and milled into the lumber that's then used to build one of these boats. So they get to see it literally from the forest till it hits the water, and they can row it themselves. It's really a quite remarkable program. These rowing gigs are very similar to ones that were used on Lake Champlain historically, though they are specifically modeled off of a pilot gig that was used in the southwestern side of the UK, the traditionally built rowing gig. And those once, they build one of these every year, and that gets incorporated into our youth and adult rowing programs, where we have active race teams in many of the local high schools and middle schools, as well as an adult rowing program that takes place in the evenings 3 days a week here at the Maritime Museum.
Wow, that's a busy place. Now, Lake Champlain, of course, was a major thoroughfare, New York City to Montreal route that was so important during the 18th century and even pre-colonial days. What's the Maritime Museum doing to commemorate the lake's key role in the American Revolution?
The American Revolution on Lake Champlain has been a focus of the Maritime Museum's interpretation and archaeological research since its earliest days in the 1980s. So this year we will be specifically, obviously, commemorating the 250th anniversary of many of the happenings around the Revolutionary War, and that happens to all of the really exciting activity on Lake Champlain did take place during 1776. So that's going to be well covered by the 250th. We will be opening our new exhibit on the Revolutionary War. We will be having a whole series of presentations and workshops and behind-the-scenes tours focused around the Revolutionary War. And we will be continuing to do some archaeological field work, again, focused on Revolutionary War sites, shipwrecks throughout the Champlain Valley. So all of this, of course, feeds into your initial statement there that the lake was really a thoroughfare, or part of that thoroughfare reaching from New York to Montreal. And that's the geography of this whole area is what led to it being such a tremendously important historic resource. And we hope to be able to interpret that importance through all these various activities that we have ongoing around the American Revolution this year.
Great. Now, as you know, Chris, a particular area of interest to the Battlefield Park Alliance is your role, the Maritime Museum's role, as custodian of Lake Champlain shipwrecks. Can you describe for us, or would you describe for us those and how the museum cares for them?
There's two main avenues here I see. The Maritime Museum plays the role of an advocate, both in discovering and monitoring, maintaining the shipwrecks within Lake Champlain. We work closely both with the historic preservation programs in New York and Vermont to help manage those resources on their behalf. Right, all of those shipwrecks in Lake Champlain they typically belong to the state whose waters they are sunk in. So the wrecks on the New York side of the lake belong to New York State. The ones on Vermont side belong to Vermont. So we help them manage and identify those shipwrecks whenever possible. The big exception to these are any military shipwrecks. Those still belong to the U.S. government or to the government whose flag they were flying when they sank. So there are actually some vessels in Lake Champlain that are still under the control of the Royal Navy. We work with all of those different entities to help monitor and maintain shipwrecks and protect them, interpret them to the public. Now, taking that a step further, on behalf of the state of Vermont, we manage the underwater historic dive preserve system on Lake Champlain, in which we have 12 shipwrecks spaced along the Vermont side of Lake Champlain that we have established a mooring at each of these locations so that they can be accessed safely by scuba divers and other interested folks, so that it's safer for the divers to find the shipwreck and to be able to explore it and return to their boat safely. It's also safer for the shipwrecks because those divers aren't searching for the shipwrecks with their anchors or potentially accidentally snagging the shipwreck with their anchor, which could cause considerable damage to those delicate resources. So we manage that system on behalf of the state of Vermont. So we're establishing these moorings and removing them every year because they're just seasonal. We interpret the sites to the visiting public. We manage the website that informs people about how they can access these sites. And obviously we talk about them in podcasts and other venues like this on a regular basis as well. So those are a couple of the ways that we help to manage what I would call the submerged cultural resources of the Champlain Valley, the stuff that's underwater that's interesting for us to all look at.
Are there tours or other ways for the public to access these shipwrecks? I mean, diving would be one way. I presume they could do so, but are there tours that you do that kind of point out to people where these resources in the water are?
We have a number of ways. Obviously, the dive public is a relatively limited slice of the world. And while that is a wonderful way to experience these shipwrecks firsthand, we realize that's not for everyone. So we do offer some tours where we take folks out on a boat that holds up to about 40 people. And it has a large screen TV on board. And we can deploy a remote operated vehicle, a little underwater robot, and send a video signal back up to the boat that can be presented on these TV screens so that even non-divers can be involved in exploring one of these buoyed shipwrecks. So that's one way that we try to make them accessible to everyone. The other option we have here is not quite as experiential, but we have started the process of creating a three-dimensional models of all of these shipwrecks as well, at least the ones in the preserve system at this point. You do that by collecting literally thousands of photographs of the shipwreck from a variety of different angles, and then a computer can create these three-dimensional models of them. And then those can be accessed from anywhere at any time online. So that's another way that we're making those vessels accessible to people, even if they're non-divers.
Oh, fascinating. Now, we're delighted to be hosting you here at Lake George on Thursday, March the 19th, 7 o'clock, Holiday Inn Resort here in town. And your topic is underwater archaeology of the American Revolution on Lake Champlain. So would you preview that for us, Chris?
The Revolutionary War has been a focus of our archaeological research here at the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum since its founding in the mid-1980s. Over the course of those, now 40 plus years, we have explored a number of shipwrecks related to the Revolutionary War, as well as battlefield sites, like the battle at Valcour Island and where the American fleet was burned after Valcour Island here in Arnold's Bay on the Vermont side of the lake. So this presentation will be be reviewing all the work that's been done in the past around these topics and how it's helped to enhance our understanding of these tremendously important historic events, that we've only learned about in the past from historic documentation. The archaeological record is really another primary source of information that can really add a lot of refinement to our understanding of the past. So this presentation is going to incorporate a lot of those historic resources as well as these archaeological resources to kind of give them a clearer picture of what happened, specifically during the 3 days of the Battle of Lake Champlain from October 11th, 1776 to October 13th of 1776. And we've worked on sites associated with all 3 of those days. And that's what the topic of this presentation is going to be, including discussions of the Battle of Valcour Island, the Arnold's Bay, and in between the wreck of the gunboat Spitfire, which is one of the American gunboats that sank during the retreat from Valcour Island in October of 1776.
Fabulous. Well, as I mentioned to you in an email, the response to you, the announcement of your presentation has been fabulous. I know there's going to be a lot of people present. We still have room because the big ballroom we use. So if you're interested in attending Chris's presentation on the archaeology of Lake Champlain during the Revolution, you can email us at info@lakegeorgebattlefield.org on the date, March the 19th, Thursday night, 7 o'clock. Well, thanks, Chris. How can people stay current on what the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum is doing?
As you might imagine, is online at our website, which is lcmm.org, lcmm.org. And there you can find information about our exhibits, our camps, and other programming, as well as a calendar of events for all the exciting stuff that's going to be happening this summer. So swing by the website at lcmm.org, and you can keep tabs on what we're doing this summer there.
Super. Well, we appreciate Chris Sabick taking time to speak with us. A reminder about that program, March the 19th, 7 o'clock at Lake George, the Holiday Inn Resort. Register by email info@lakegeorgebattlefield.org. It's a free program. Thank you, Chris Sabick.
Always a great pleasure to speak with you guys.
Same here. And again, our website, lakegeorgebattlefield.org. We thank you for being a part of our history.
Lake George Battlefield Moments, a production of Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance, preserving our area's incredible history. For more information or to check out the latest podcast, go to lakegeorgebattlefield.org. And listen live on Saturday mornings to Lake George Battlefield Moments on 93.5 Lake FM.